Welcome, everyone, to today's LinkedIn Live. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host. I'm going to introduce our topic, introduce our guests, and then we're going to get into it. Our topic today is AI killing culture or reinventing it. I'm excited about this one. We've had a couple of fun prep calls and a lot of conversation around this. And we're going to get into really what's going on in the world today. And obviously, this is kind of a moving target. So we're going to talk about what we're seeing today, but also what we kind of anticipate or what we're looking for in the future. Just a little bit before we get into our guests, if you're watching on LinkedIn here, we're streaming live on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you're on LinkedIn, you have a comment, question, go ahead and put it in the comment section of the LinkedIn page. We'll watch those and try to integrate any questions, comments into the conversation. If you are on YouTube, I'm not going to be watching the comments over on YouTube, so jump over to LinkedIn if you want to ask a live question, and we'll get into the conversation. If you are watching the replay on any platform, go ahead and put any comments and questions onto the page. We'll watch that in the coming days and weeks and respond to people and answer any questions and things like that. So if you're watching the replay, go ahead and engage there. So let me get into let me introduce our guests. First up, I've got Terry Kane. He is an author, educator, change management leader with deep expertise in customer experience and operational transformation. He's the co-owner of Pinwheel Partners. He helps organizations create cultures of engagement and excellence. Terry, welcome to the program.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Next up, I've got Steve Church. He is the former president of a $6 billion electronic distribution business across the Americas and former chief HR, marketing, and operational excellence officer. Today, he is the co-owner of Pinwheel Partners and helps establish organizations, helping them redesign culture for high performance. Steve, welcome to the program. Oh, I think you're muted. Can I hear you? There you go.
Thanks for having us, Bruce.
That's great. It's great to have both of you. There's a lot of kind of entry points in this, but I guess I'd love to kind of hear when did you first sort of see AI kind of starting to play a role or impacting company culture? Like, when did this first come on the radar for you? And how, like, what was your first reaction? I'd love to kind of get a sense of, how this started for each of you. Terry, why don't we start from you and we'll hear from you.
I'm sure Steve and I will have similar things. I would say it was about a year ago. That we were conducting some strategic planning sessions, and we were of course aware of AI and had been using it a little bit and experimenting, but we were surprised that this manufacturer we were helping had no AI strategy.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was just amazing. So that's my remark on that. It became fascinating. That's probably when, Steve, you and I just did a deep dive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And Bruce, I would just add to that our business started as helping organizations understand their current culture and then helping them get to what is the optimum culture for this organization for high performance and employee engagement. And then, of course, obviously the middle is we help them build the bridge between current and future. And when we started, and Terry's right, about a year ago, when we started doing this, which we've done many, many times, we started to realize that AI was impacting organizational culture.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time, it was coming up when we had them in workshops talk about their current culture. Now AI was all of a sudden popping up as an issue and with lots and lots of questions around AI.
Yeah. So the second question I have is on the other side of this, like from a culture point of view, I'd love to kind of get your working definition of culture, right? Like this term's thrown around a lot. We have all these kind of books and discussions, but when it comes to kind of practically within a company, like what do you define as culture? And Steve, why don't we start with you at this time?
Great. So we have a very simple definition, and that is it's how we do things here. And the other thing I would add to that is leadership behaviors are most of what creates organizational culture. Yeah. It's what they model.
Yeah. Terry, how would you modify or edit that?
Well, that mantra that Steve said is something that we absolutely believe. The thing that amazes me is lots of times we have to start at the C-suite, right? And I know that's your playing field. And when we do, we will often ask that question: "Hey, what's your culture like?" And let me give you the high and the low of that. Well, we've got a ping pong table.
Yeah.
Or we've got values with posters on the wall, and I'm making fun of it, but we've actually heard these things that at a C-suite level, they believe they've built a big culture based upon a couple things that are really only elements.
Yeah.
And so for us, Steve described it best. It's the leadership behavior that we want to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. I always like kind of defining culture as the things, the way we do things. I like Steve's definition, but also the way we don't do things, right?
Yeah,
is kind
right.
of this defining like the things we're not doing either out of principle, out of values, out of intention, a choice. I always say culture is a choice, right? It's a set of choices that you make around how you behave, how you act, how you interact.
Yeah.
So
No, you hit the key word that Steve and I really live by, and that is the values, because the
Yeah.
values have to be done or emulated, excuse me, sorry, by the leadership.
Yeah.
And if they're not, they're toast.
Yeah.
People are hired and fired for values, and Steve can tell the story of what he led us through. For how many employees did we have when we got down to 5 values that had behaviors that people were hired and fired for?
Roughly 20,000.
Yeah.
And it took how long? Maybe
5 years to get them fully embedded in the organization,
Yeah.
where all employees knew what they were, understood the behaviors associated with them, and lived by them every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I mean, it's a set of choices, right? And it's a discipline, I find. And the more that you, as an organization, that you can articulate, reinforce, apply those, you create this consistency, alignment, and kind of connective tissue across the organization. So let's talk about AI. And I think I want to, or I guess I want to look at this from kind of two different lenses. One is AI as a cultural parameter or as a cultural value, right? Do we embrace or not embrace AI, or like how does it affect, how is AI itself kind of a choice? And then also kind of the other angle is, how is AI impacting or adjusting or influencing how companies approach kind of the whole cultural process?
Yes.
So let's cover the first one. Like, where have you seen AI as a topic or as an issue show up in people's culture? Like, have you seen companies, from a cultural point of view, embrace or reject AI just as a choice? What
Yes.
have you seen on this?
Yeah, so I'll start on this one, Bruce, and I know Terry and I talk about this all the time, so he'll have a lot to add. I think one of the big issues we're seeing today is that AI is being dealt with outside of the existing culture of the organization. And, in order for AI to be effective, because it's just a tool,
Yeah.
that's what it is, it has to be embedded in the strategic plan of the organization, and it has to be cross-checked against mission, vision, core values. Right. So it's not a separate thing that sits out here, and it's not a technology transition.
Yeah.
It's a leadership and trust transition. And where those things are absent, we're seeing lots of issues. And I just want to add one other thing to this really interesting question: is it killing culture, reinventing it? It really, the first thing an organization needs to understand, particularly the leaders, what is our culture today?
Yeah.
Terry and we can't tell you how many leadership teams we have interviewed. And when we interview, let's say the CEO or president and their top 7 direct reports separately, independently, we'll get 7 or 8 different views or descriptions of the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Then we interview middle managers. Guess what? We get another completely different view of the culture. Then we interview frontliners, and again, we get a different view of the culture. So the first thing leaders have to determine in terms of whether AI's introduction is killing them or reinventing their culture is, what is our culture today?
Right.
Yeah, you have to define it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this, Terry?
Well, kind of like what I said when we asked the CEO about the culture, when we asked the CEO about um, AI, the CEO might say something like, "Well, I gave that to HR, the culture to HR." In
Yeah.
this case, and we've seen it with at least one client, the CEO would say, "Well, I delegate that to the CIO." And so we're at a point now where this strategy, and we can talk about governance in a minute if you want, but
Yeah.
the governance, the culture, using AI as a tool has got to be this cross-functional group leadership definition, and it has to come from a collaborative. You can't. Well, I guess we could do it on a Zoom, but for the most part, we got to be looking at each other's
Yeah.
eyeballs because, as you know, transparency is like number one. It's got to be maybe a brand new value for anybody that's really going to engage in this.
Yeah. Yeah. I really resonate with that. My kind of joke is if I ask 10 leaders what the culture is, I've got 11 answers, right? Like it's such a,
Yeah.
most companies and some companies do this very, very well, but most companies haven't really taken the time, other than, choosing a couple of words and painting them on the wall, right? Haven't really taken the time to investigate themselves in terms of what are our values, and more importantly, what are the trade-offs? Like, given this value that we've chosen or that we've
That's
identified, what is the thing we give up to live this value, and making that a real conscious choice and a decision. Um, I have run into cases where sort of the issue of AI ends up becoming a cultural sort of values issue, where they have to look at, well, we may have a cultural value of communication or personal interaction or something like that, or customer service in some kind of way that AI could potentially challenge. And I find that companies that have done a good job of defining those values and those trade-offs can navigate those questions much easier, or at least much more decisively.
Yes.
And they can figure out, okay, this is where we can apply AI effectively and maintain our integrity and values. And this is areas that we need to go with caution because we may actually run amok of, something that we've chosen in terms of how we're going to operate here. Like, where have you seen kind of AI challenge companies in terms of the value side? Like, it's something that's come up where companies have had to sort of pause or take a step back or be really thoughtful about how they embrace, and we can talk AI. There's large language models. There's agents, or there's various kind of components of AI that start to come up. But have you seen companies, grapple with this in a very intentional way relative to their values?
So I'll start on that
Yeah.
one. Just a couple things. The answer is yes. One example is employee engagement. A lot of organizations have a core value around the importance and the value of their employees. And that can go either way with AI. If you have a healthy culture, AI can improve employee engagement. If you have an unhealthy culture, it can really, damage employee engagement. And another one is operational excellence. Everybody today, one of the pillars, everybody today wants to reduce costs, do more with less. Well, there are a lot of leaders out there today, unfortunately, as we have seen in our experience and meeting with people, that view AI as nothing more than a means to reduce headcount
Yeah.
and do more with less. And that's not the answer to this. The answer is, how do we move to higher value work, more decision, data-driven decision making, and help our people to grow through that experience. Yes, some jobs are going to be eliminated, but more jobs are being created at higher value, where the human, interaction becomes more and more important.
Yeah. Yeah. I think of it as almost this, like, I'm thinking of, I think it was Aliens and this exoskeleton, right? Where you have a worker who's trying to lift boxes and you put on the exoskeleton, then they can lift 10,000 pounds, right? Like, AI can kind of provide that supercharging of capabilities if you think about it, the right way. And you kind of think about it as this kind of ability to augment people, move them into higher level work, kind of take
Yes.
out some of the drudgery and the kind of menial kind of work they're doing. Terry, where have you seen kind of companies and grapple with this embracing AI from a value
Yeah,
point of view?
I don't know that I can answer your question directly from experience, but I do have 1,000 thoughts on this. And the one from experience that I can think about is in a church environment where the question is, what can we do with it? And it gets down to, man, it can help us plan so much better, so much faster, and I think the outcome for everybody, not just in a church environment, but the outcome for everybody is it has the great capability to give us margin.
Yeah.
We get back so
Yeah.
much if we use it correctly. And then I have one personal experience with you that just happened recently. I went to a dermatologist, and from the time I booked the appointment to the time I saw the doctor. Well, first of all, the booking of the appointment, this is all AI driven. It's the best experience I've had with a person or AI ever, where within seconds, it answered what I wanted. It gave me the options. I picked one, and I was on my phone, I think, in the car, and it's talking to me, and then it said suddenly the appointment showed up on my text. I go, that's amazing. And I don't know, you've had to do much with the healthcare industry. I've been recently quite active there with my in-laws, but just that experience, if every experience of just booking an appointment would go like that, man, it would be amazing. So that's the second one. The third thing that comes to mind, and Steve mentioned this briefly, or maybe it was you, Bruce. When I was a young manager, we were all applauded for having a gut level, experience, right? We from our gut, we managed from our gut. We did that for a long time. And then this next wave came in, and it was fact-based management. Okay, let's get facts, and then we'll apply it to whatever, maybe our guts again, but facts-based management. And then when that expanded even more, it was data-based management, right? Data, and so now here's the level that we've got now with AI assisted decision making. Guess what? We get to go back to our guts. We get to use everything that we've been given to use. If we use AI assist to take and give us margin for that and be the best human version we can be. So that's it.
Yeah, I was thinking about your appointment story, and I saw a use case where it was an individual's AI agent was calling a hotel to make a hotel booking, and it said, "Hey, I'm a Steve's AI agent. I'd like to book a room for these dates." And the response was, "Oh, well, I'm an AI booking agent. Do you want to go to high speed mode?" And they just went and they made the booking in like 2 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's just like, as you think about like all of the kind of inefficiencies or the work that goes into these kind of transactions, and once we start integrating these kind of AI agents, they basically become integration points. Like we can just set natural integration points between these systems, and this whole efficiency transacting much faster becomes possible. I'm kind of curious on the other side of this, which is, particularly with the LLMs and, people using these AI tools to kind of do their thinking and to kind of work through problems and do this analysis. I find that, this can be, the AI tools can have a huge impact, but it's subtle in terms of sort of nudging people from a cultural point of view. And if you haven't really figured out what your culture is and what your values are, and haven't really kind of set up your tools to understand that and to reinforce that, you can get some, I won't call them hallucinations, but you can get some situations where the LLMs are, highly influencing in kind of a subtle way people's choices and how they interact and the decisions they make and how they communicate. How have you seen companies actually take their culture and their values and train or apply them or create kind of guidelines on how people are going to use some of these AI tools in that process, so that ideally you are reinforcing, right? You can take folks that maybe haven't been in the organization very long, and the LLMs will actually sort of train them or reinforce values. And on the flip side, situations where untrained tools will start to degrade or steer people away from these. Have you seen organizations kind of grapple with this whole, how do we make sure that these tools are really reinforcing the values and the cultural decisions that we've made. Steve, I don't know if you have any insight or answers on that one.
Yes, Bruce, we actually experienced this recently. One of the things we do is strategic planning for organizations. And Terry mentioned a company we just were with recently that really was really nowhere with AI except, hey, we know we need to use it. So we had someone come in and speak on AI, kind of an introductory, conversant level. But then when we got into the strategic objectives to answer your question, what we were doing is we were mapping AI, and this is why it has to be integrated. We were mapping AI to how it would solve or resolve strategic objectives.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, what employees want today is they want to know why and what and when and how. Unfortunately, we see a lot of organizations that are telling their employees AI is everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to learn it. You've got to be able to use it, right? I remember a Wall Street Journal article a month or so ago where a CEO of a very, very large consulting firm said, if you're not going to embrace and learn AI, we'll show you the door. Well, the question for the employee is, okay, I've got this huge workload, right? I'm already as busy as I can possibly be. Now I'm being told that I have to find the time and the means to learn AI tools. And Bruce, there's somewhere between 20 and 50,000 tools out there today, depending on how you define a tool.
Yeah.
And 1,000 or more being introduced every month.
Yeah.
It's drinking from a fire hose. We used to, Terry and I worked in tech, and we used to use an analogy in technology that our work was like trying to change the tire on a race car when it was going 200 miles an hour,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, that's what's happening here. So, one of the things, and I'm going to let Terry talk about this, that we are very passionate about is that AI implementation is a change management initiative. And we are certified in ProSci. We're big believers in ADKAR. And without ADKAR, without a change management implementation, you're not going to get from awareness to desire to knowledge to ability to reinforcement. You're going to get stuck, right, at awareness. Why are we doing this? Which it won't create desire unless you communicate that openly, honestly to your employees, the good and the bad of it, right? Because there are really good things about AI, but there are also pitfalls. Terry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it. The only thing I would add to that is, and there's lots of change management methodologies out there. They just, you got to go from, some position to a future state, blah, blah, blah. We found ProSci is just straightforward, and you can even apply it to your personal life.
Yeah.
So the first question of awareness, though, is in every change, this one's a bigger change. It's a sea change in potentially every direction, has to have 4 or 5 questions answered. What's changing? By the way, it doesn't have to change. I mean, I think people could just start with that one question and say, oh, I don't know yet. Well, then say, I don't know. What's changing? Why is it changing? What's in it for me? And what happens if I don't? And that's for every single change. And when we were with our tech company for a bunch of years, when we introduced that particular methodology, I'll never forget, I felt like we won when some employees revolted and said, hey, where's the ADKAR in this? They actually made it a verb, because what had happened was we had put people through training, which is knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Here you go, here you go, here you go, and nothing changed. Here you go. Because nothing changed because they didn't have the first 2 done,
Yeah.
And again, the more the better, but the right information is what people need. And I think, Steve and I've talked about this ad nauseum. There are such positive things about AI that can come for our lives. Who knows? It could solve some of the world's problems eventually that have been hanging around for a while. But without governance and the values that we talked about already, I picked this up last night, I think it was. Gartner has a report on the new roles for AI, and I won't show it to you because you won't see it. But it's like 20 different new roles that they're saying invest in this, and it's how can you even understand what that means?
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
They want all this to happen, and maybe there's something really in it for Gartner. But the main thing is have that strategy linked to your values, emulate those values, and if transparency's in the middle of it, then your governance is your honesty and your integrity.
Yeah.
And,
Go
ahead. Sorry.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that kind of framing AI in this kind of change management kind of context, because I think that's the big challenge I think most companies face. And the thing I find with leadership, or the challenges I find most leadership teams, have, or kind of the mistakes they make, and particularly with AI, is they have this great idea of what it could do, but they haven't really validated in any meaningful way that it actually is going to do that. And so that's one challenge I see. The second one is that I don't think they really kind of identify, articulate, investigate how hard that change is going to be. And so they're in this position of saying, hey, well, we want to introduce this new AI program. Like they launch it, right? They tell everyone, yeah, you've got to be AI enabled in the next 3 months, right? They kind of put all these mandates out there without really kind of clarifying, okay, well, what is it we're trying to do? What is the value? What is it going to look like when we're done? And how do we get through this change process? And so it puts employees in this position of, I really don't understand the value of doing this, right? Like I'm not really convinced that this future state that they've articulated is really as great as they say it is, or at least it's not well articulated. And the canyon that we've got to climb or go down through to get there, right? The trial that we have to go to be able to make that change. Typically, leaders underestimate the challenge of change. The other thing too is I think they particularly underestimate, or they don't appreciate the employee's perspective of what that challenge is going to be. A leader may look at that and say, oh, that's too hard. We're just going to change these systems. We're going to train these people, right? It's not too bad. The employee is not like, yeah, but we've done this a couple of times before, and it's always takes 3 times longer. It's 3 times harder, right? Like they've got this experience. And so I think leaders fail to really address employees' concerns around this. How have you kind of worked with leaders to get them to appreciate what they really need to kind of communicate in terms of end state, in terms of, telling employees, like, we get it. We know, we've done the research, we've done the pilots, we've actually looked at what this change is going to be. And this is how hard it's going to be. And that's a realistic expectation, and employees can trust that. Like, tell me a little bit about how you work with leaders on that change management.
Yeah, I know you're going to the same place. We've already referenced it. When we interview C-suite leaders, we get a sense, and we play it back to them. And so there's 7 of them. They go, yeah, that's the way it is. And there's conflict. And the pinwheel method actually has a couple ways to kind of spin that out. But then, I mean, this is how it evolved in a way that we can speak very clearly about it. Then they said, we would ask the question of the senior leadership, well, what do you think your 26 vice presidents would say in these answers? Okay, well, would you go interview them? Yes, we will. And so we do. I mean, it's an arduous process, but it's fairly clear. And to make it a little shorter, one example we had, Steve, we already talked about values. From a board level perspective, by the way, we involved with boards too at the request. So from a board level, we helped them realize they needed to revamp their values, let's say. And this actually happened. We were in a different city, and the board gave specific direction to the executive team. Okay, you need to refine the values. That was in April. In October, when the next board meeting was ready to be revealed these values, Steve and I made a phone call in early September and said, are you going to have this ready? And they said, oh, no. And then they said, would you do it? Uh-huh. And so, okay, what we did was we got their top 10 worker vice presidents and said, if you let them own it, then it will be real. Yeah. It'll be from inside, and we'll just facilitate that. and Steve did a great job of managing those multiple sessions. And within 30 days, they had a bottoms up value system that was so impressive to the senior leadership team. They had that same team present it to the board.
Yeah.
And so I get chills thinking about this, because what more could you do? It's back to your question. Well, what will the employees think?
Yeah.
You better ask them.
Yeah, exactly. Have them do it. Like, have them do the plan.
And we're not talking about a once a year employee engagement survey that puts, depending on what you do. I mean, Steve could talk for hours about that, but
yeah. Steve, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so this is a great area to be in. First of all, what Terry was talking about there is one of our real mantras, and that is people support what they help create.
Yeah.
So one of our messages to leaders is this is now a time. This is the biggest transition probably in the history of business. I don't want to be too superlative, but this is big time major, right? And leaders need to be listeners and coaches. It's no longer about telling, it's about listen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on, a lot of pressures, a lot of emotion going on in employees today. And leaders need to ask and listen, and be coaches and use the open-ended question, which gets to the next one. And let's get to the bottom of what's really going on. One of the questions we like to ask is, give us one word, right? That describes how you think your employees are feeling today about AI, right? And then another one is, give us one word that describes what they're afraid of and what they're excited about.
Yeah.
So this is really, really, important. I just want to make a comment. I want to promote just do a shout out to middle management.
Yeah.
They're always caught in the middle, right?
By definition. Yeah.
Right. They're caught between strategy and execution, right? They're caught between what leaders are not telling them, the leaders at the top, and the questions that are being asked by their teams. And if there's ever a time to have respect and esteem for middle managers, it's right now. This is a very difficult time for them. They need help from above so they can support their teams. And then I just want to say one other thing. I love the term meet in the middle, right? Meet in the middle. This is a time for meet in the middle. Leaders, executive leaders, need to commit to a couple of things. They need to commit to building trust, and they need to commit to regular, honest, open communication.
Yeah.
Not, don't make stuff up, and don't say, which we hear, unfortunately, from leaders. Here's the other thing we hear. Well, this is still a moving sidewalk. I'm not prepared to communicate about it right now. Bad answer.
Yeah.
The right answer is communicate what you know and acknowledge that when you find out more, you'll share more.
Yeah.
So, these are the kinds of things, Bruce, that we're trying to coach into leaders today at this kind of monumental point in our business history.
We could go on for, I'm sure, another couple of hours on this, but we had time here. I want to make sure people have contact information. Steve, if people want to get a hold of you and learn more about what you're doing these days, what's the best way to get that?
So through our website, and it's really simple, it's steve@pinwheel.partners. And no, there's nothing on the end of that. There's steve@pinwheel.partners. We're simple guys, Bruce.
I love it. Terry, what's your email? How do people get a hold of you?
Same, exactly. Terry@pinwheel.partners.
You need to get some water there.
My problem was I let the water go down my airway.
Oh no.
Hey, could we make one bottom line, Bruce?
Yeah, go ahead.
When AI replaces judgment instead of supporting it, the culture collapses.
Ooh.
And AI will not determine the future of work. Our values will.
Yeah.
And so I think that if that's the main message that we could give you, is that start there, and there's lots of ways to do that.
Yeah, I'm fully. AI is a tool, and it's just going to amplify. And if you've got a bad culture, it's going to make it worse. If you've got a good culture, it can make it better. So
absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking the time today. If people want to get a hold of me, just bruce@eckfeldt.com is my email, eckfeldt.com is URL. And we're all here on LinkedIn, so you can always message us and find out more there. Thank you all to our audience for joining us. Again, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and leave comments and questions. We'll watch those as we go. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone on the next LinkedIn Live. Terry, Steve, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you,
so
Bruce.
much.